Nice.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the SQ Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Steve Zales. I'm joined today by my two esteemed guests, Tom Gallagher, John Zepf. We have a lot of reasons to celebrate. I actually got to fully clean my room for the first time since I moved in. I built what is that called? A dresser over there. I have room for my clothes. That's great. I have a Diet Coke in my hand that I'm going to crack open. And Tom, please tell the two of us what you just told me.
We are 3 weeks away from kickoff at Lambeau Field.
3 weeks away. And in fact, what time is it? We are officially, that game would have started, 55 minutes ago?
55 minutes ago.
How awesome is that? We made it. We're here. I'm pretty excited. So we're going to split this up a little bit because last year we did a preview for the entire team, which I had fun recording, as I recall, but it was also 1 hour and 45 minutes long. And, people have things to do. People are going to listen to an hour 45 podcast. We got to spread it out because, it's Notre Dame football. It's worth stretching out. We got to, make the days go, So we are going to talk today about the offense and the coaching staff more specifically. And I've done this kind of intentionally because, long story short, we can get into more team prediction stuff if we want the next podcast we do. But I feel pretty good about this team. Is that am I allowed to feel that way? Is that unreasonable? John, what do we think?
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
I think there's some question marks, right? But I think it's very reasonable to feel pretty confident with where
Tom,
we're at.
We excited?
I'm very
cautiously
excited.
Optimistic. Can I get you a cautiously optimistic?
I am cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
There are questions, but I think compared to past years and other teams around the country, I think there are much fewer of them.
Yeah. And so the question marks are absolutely there. And the reason that, look, I'm going to be honest with you guys, regardless of how the postseason goes, I'm picking us to go 12-0 this year. And some of that's schedule related, which again, we'll get into later, but keep in mind that the stuff that we talk about today, all going to be kind of viewed through that lens of I think of this team very, very, very highly. So, there's stuff that we have to question. There's stuff that we have to ask. And the offense, only one side of the ball has questions. It is not the defense. So we're going to talk about the offense today because I want to end on, really hammering home again why we feel as positive as we do 2 weeks from now when we talk about the defense. But not that there's not things to like about the offense. But the first thing I want to do is talk about the team overall. We got some coaching staff changes. Defensive coaching. We have Chris Ash, head of the operation. He stays, and everybody else leaves. Starting from the top and going back down, it's very sad to see Mike Mickens go. Tom, if you want to do a quick little eulogy on Mike Mickens and, how important he has been in the last couple of years, I'm going to give you free reign to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he was every year just producing more and more NFL talent, DBs. He had Benjamin Morrison, Leonard Moore, Cam Hart. He got here, 2019?
2020, I think, was his first year.
Okay. And even some of the down the line guys who maybe weren't thought of as super highly, but some of them turned out to be really good football players. You think about a Tariq Bracy, he kind of was okay in the prior regime and then turned out to be really good playing the nickel spot his final couple years. And Mike Mickens has a lot to do with that and his ability to recruit that high end talent, but also maintain, develop, and get them to be pro draft picks in the first couple rounds is really incredible and something you haven't seen much from Notre Dame position coaches, especially in the DB room.
Absolutely. To provide some context there, 2020 was his first year here. I'm fairly certain that's true. Maybe it was 2019. But 2020, the starters in that room were Nick McLeod, who he ended up actually being a really solid player, who I give Mickens a lot of credit for bringing him in and elevating him from his time in NC State. And true freshman Clarence Lewis, because that was it. That was what we had. Bracy was actually, you talk about Bracy, he really turned into a really solid nickel in 2022. He was awful in 2020. Oh my God. He really struggled. Who was the Cornell Powell, was it? He just destroyed Bracy in that Clemson game, twice. And think about where it is now. And we have probably the best secondary in the country. And
there's no probably there.
There's no probably. We have the best secondary in the country with the best corner in the country and maybe one of the best corners we've ever had. And, that's all Mike Mickens. He turned something that had continuously been a weakness going back to 2018 Clemson. Julian Love went down and we gave up 20 points immediately because we lost the one guy that we had. That's not fair. We lost, our guy at corner. We had no one else that could come in and play at an acceptable level. And now it's easily the best strength in the team. And it's probably the best position room of any position in the country, other than, I don't know, like maybe Ohio State at receiver, but do they even deserve that benefit of the doubt right now? I don't know. Mike Mickens is going to be sorely missed. But Aaron Henry, who came over from the defensive back position at Illinois, also pretty good. They put out, 4 DBs in the NFL in the last, 2 or 3 years, something like that? I mean,
yeah,
we just saw
Witherspoon.
I personally just saw Devin Witherspoon absolutely annihilate my team in the Super Bowl. He's, pretty good. A couple other guys in there too. I think that ultimately, and you guys can feel free to disagree with me if you want, but I think that this team is so veteran that I don't know if these coaching staffs are they could just not teach these guys anything, and I think they would be fine for the most part just because they've had so many reps already. But I think that Aaron Henry actually, is quite a good coach and could have some value to bring to the table, even if Mike Mickens is gone. So that's not something I'm worried about too much. I want to hear from John a little bit because I haven't given him enough time here. So we're going to talk about the D-line now. We lost Al Washington went from D-line to linebackers, and then he left. We have replaced him at defensive line with Charlie Partridge, who left for Tom's Colts. John, have you actually talked to any coaches that know him down there? Because he's a big Florida guy. I know you've talked to some people that know Sider. I don't know if, probably not. I guess,
unfortunately, right? no Partridge. But
yeah. Charlie Partridge's reputation precedes him. He's been a very effective D-line coach for a couple years, several years at this point. He was he at Pitt right before the Colts?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was at Pitt, helping Narduzzi make all those very feisty defenses that, were known for a lot of scrappy play and very tough defensive line play. And in particular, he recruited and I think helped develop for a little bit Francis Brew, who's now on our team and we're pretty excited about. I think that the reaction around Partridge's entrance has been pretty standout. You just hear a lot. John, I know you and I were talking one time about there was a quote by, I think it was Onye maybe, and he was talking about how there's just techniques and strategies that Al Washington never really brought up that, it definitely feels like it's going to be a bit of a step up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd think, just thinking about the position of defensive line, everything happens so quickly, right? So you think that, the technique isn't that precise, but it's so much more precise than you believe. It's a lot like hand fighting or knife fighting. It's so important that your hand placement's in the right position, time and time again, and that your body awareness has to be, essentially perfect, knowing, when to get your hip in the gap, or, what the offensive lineman is trying to do to you. Is he trying to reach block you? Is he trying to down block you? Right. So, I think we're going to see a huge jump. Just hearing all the things that we're hearing out of camp, I think we're going to see a huge jump in defensive line play. And again, our defensive line play has been pretty good, but hearing everything that we're hearing out of camp, I think it's going to be stellar this year.
Agreed. Yeah, I think people kind of underrate that the defensive line, or just battles in the line, can very much be as much a mental game and a strategy game as much as the physical game. Sure. And again, we'll talk about the defense in a couple weeks here, but undoubtedly, we have a couple guys who have all the physical tools in the world that are going to play this year that could, that getting that last extra help in the other aspects of being a defensive lineman from a guy like Partridge could really elevate them to the very top stratosphere that they're capable of. And then last but not least, so Max Bulla was a linebackers coach, left to go be the co-DC at Michigan State. Al Washington moves to linebackers coach, which he had done at Ohio State. He was not a particularly good linebackers coach at Ohio State. And then he, what was it, a month later, Tom, leaves for the Dolphins?
Yeah, Dolphins.
So we end up getting Brian Jean-Marie from Michigan. I don't really know much about him. Michigan's been pretty good in the front seven. Tom, if you want to interrupt me, feel free to do so at any point, but I don't really think so.
I don't really have much on him. And again, of all the rooms that you talk about of not needing as much of coaching, this is probably the case in point, in the sense of you largely have someone who's competent and let the developed and experienced guys like Bowen, KVA, Sneed, etc. just do their thing.
Right. It's
as veteran and talented of a room as you can really have. And I don't want to say linebacker simple defensively because it's not, but I think there's a little less schematically there than maybe the other spots on the defense, and maybe John will yell at me for that assumption, but that feels much more reactionary in my
Yeah,
eyes.
I think it's they just have so much experience. Sorry, John, if you want to talk, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you said it right. It's not simple, right? But at the end of
Right.
the day, like, flow is flow, right?
Yeah.
Like outside zone flow is outside zone flow, in eighth grade and at the D1 level, right? So, there's going to be some differences, obviously, and some keys, obviously, they're going to be a little bit different. But the other thing, too, like with coaching changes, it's never a bad, like whenever a coach leaves, right? You always have what that coach said, you know what I mean? Or what that coach. So, like, for some people, right, maybe a different point of view or a different voice isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, right? So, like, Leonard Moore still, learned from Mickens, right? But maybe Henry's got, a different key when he's in cover two, right? That's working a little bit better for him, right? So you never really leave the coaches that you've had before in that sense, right? So I think, coaching changes, like, yeah, it happens a lot, but, when looking at some of the historically great teams, right, it's just it's the reality of having a good team, right? Um, the position coaches get their opportunities to go to other spots, right? Move up in the ranks, and it happens. But as long as you're hiring quality guys, it shouldn't really be too much of an issue.
Agreed. I really like the way that you put that. Like, we're not leaving our coaches behind. Like, we are all sums of our experiences, and that applies to anything, much less football, right? And we also talked about the idea that these guys are so experienced sometimes that maybe like the new coaching, I think there's kind of a limit to how detrimental that bad coaching could even be. And I mean, like, Drake Bowen knows how to run this defense. This is now going to be year 3 of him doing this. Like, he's not magically going to forget how to do that, right? Like, that's just not something I'm worried about.
And at the end of the day, poor game planning is on Marcus and Chris, right?
Right.
Like, it's not on the new linebackers coach. It's not on the new assistants or the new GAs. Like, at the end of the day, it's on the top guys. So, the fact that we have continuity up there, I'm not stressing about that too much.
Thank you for bringing that up too, actually, because that was really kind of the point I wanted to like tie this all in a bow with, is that, like, normally if you turn over so many coaches like this, yeah, they're probably, you could be a little worried about it, but it's also like Chris Ash is staying. Like, this is all still going to be him running this show. And these guys also, very importantly, have experience with him. They've all worked with him. Partridge in particular, he and Ash know each other very well. And this was partially why Partridge wanted to come to Notre Dame in the first place. And I can't remember actually if we talked about this much on the podcast. I don't think we did, because we didn't get to do much of it in the middle there. But there was definitely, we heard a lot about, even from Freeman himself at the beginning of the season last year, like, when the defense forgot how to play football for a game and a half, that like there was definite friction between the old coaches and Ash in terms of like how they wanted to approach things, guys they wanted to use. Like, there was a lot of friction to the point where, like, if Freeman came out to the media and was like telling us basically that this was happening, like, that there was definitely something there. That's not really going to be a problem this year, because these are all Ash guys. Not that the guys before weren't good coaches. I mean, good God, we just eulogized Mike Mickens for like 5 minutes, but chemistry and being able to work through some of those issues, not going to be a problem this year. Now, on the other side of this, the offensive staff is staying completely the same. I'm sure we've lost maybe some grad assistants or quality control guys. I'm not totally sure, but the core position coaches are going to be the same. Mike Denbrock is going into year 3 of his time here. And I think that's really, you couldn't ask for that to go any better for a team that's going to be adjusting to life without Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. Because having that continuity of staff is going to be really important as we kind of pivot to what we look like, because things are going to change for sure. But at the same time, because these guys have been here for so long, we also can dig further into the playbook for different things. There's going to be more comfortability. Like, for example, the thing we keep hearing about, the thing we keep seeing, is we're actually going to go under center some, which we do it at all last year. I literally, if we did it for more than like 5 snaps, I would be stunned. I mean, this is a gun team, and that it's pretty big if we can actually go under center. And John, you and I have kind of talked about this before. Like, what are the advantages that running under center, in particular, like short yardage red zone situations? Like, what does that offer you that defenses like defenses are going to rather face runs out
Yeah.
of shotgun. Like, why is that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I said the first thing is when you're out of shotgun, right? The alignment of the running back often gives you some sort of, or there's often a tendency with the alignment of the running back. So let's just say the running back is to the side, but even with the quarterback, right? That tends to be something more like an outside zone or an outside run versus if you're in a pistol, right? So it's shotgun formation with a running back behind, right? That tends to be a little bit more downhill, right? So a lot of teams, especially at the high school level, but even when you get to college and the NFL, right? That's a kind of a classic tendency with shotgun runs. Right. But under center, you don't really get that. It's pretty much just I form, right? So you can run ISO, you can run inside zone, you can run duo, you can run gap scheme, you can pretty much run any sort of run play, right, out of under center, right, which you can do obviously out of shotgun, right, but it's hidden better, right, and on top of that too, it's not just the run game, but play action pass game is a lot easier to hide. Right? It's a lot easier to hide that ball and kind of hide what you're doing with uh, when you're under center. I think also it allows for the offensive line to play a little bit faster. So even if you are doing play action pass, right, that initial first step from the offensive line that usually indicates run or pass for the defense, um, it can be a little bit hairier there, which can make the read for a defender, can make a read for especially like a nickel player who is super important and it's super important in the run, but also needs to drop back in the pass. Right, it kind of puts them in conflict. So running under center and being able to do so puts a lot more stress on the defense.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate that. Was really great. It's a game of inches. Oftentimes, like these little things will matter a lot. And Tom, I mean, you and I complained for forever. This is well before I had met John. 2023 with Gerard Parker as the offensive coordinator. It drove me crazy how often, like, we would run under center sometimes, but it was like you knew exactly what was coming because it was like the same thing every time, and we never threw out of under center. So it was just like
no. Well, that was the infamous year where there was no play action until like
right.
the last 2 weeks of the year, and it worked, and everyone was going, "Wow, stunning play action! It actually works." But I try not to think about the Gerard Parker days too much.
I mean, I try not to either. I just thought it was so funny because like we had that NC State game where like we actually kind of did it, and like we had like that fullback, the walk-on fullback who was playing. I was like, oh, like this was kind of fun, and I was like, this is what we needed to see if we're going to play a team like Ohio State, and then we just like never did it like that ever again. But yeah, I've been really encouraged, like hearing CJ and Mike Denbrock have both talked a lot about, they've been watching a lot of the Rams tape, like the Los Angeles Rams, and like they're very much specializing in heavy formations and like running out of under center and like a way that a lot of people don't do these days. And I mean, if they actually stick with their guns and do some of that, I think that short yardage this year is going to be a lot better than it was last year for a variety of reasons. But I think that's a really good place to start. Is just schematically like putting a foundation of under center runs in there. I think is going to help a lot in that regard.
Yeah.
So
if you ask
John,
just like football coaches across the country, it's the new wave, right? So we've gone from this like kind of West Coast spread offense, and now what teams are doing, like the Rams and like the Niners, so they're just going like really heavy personnel. They're putting three tight ends in there, and they're playing old school football again. So hopefully we can start doing that a little bit as well, and have some packages with like that.
Brings a tear to the eye, Tom.
And this is what I think makes Denbrock one of the best in the business. In terms of OCs across the country, is he can beat you in a variety of ways. He's very good at adjusting to what his personnel is on a given team, given strengths and weaknesses are, and will make you defend really across the board. You see some great OCs, like it relies on having a certain style of quarterback and certain handful of receivers who have to be able to run the system highly. And if those guys can't do that, then that team is going to struggle for the year. But you've seen Denbrock at LSU, like he had Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, all those guys, and he ran an offense where the goal was we're going to score 50 plus points a game, running up and down, slinging the ball all over the field. But he can also do what he did last year and say, okay, I've got 2 first-round draft pick running backs. We're going to run the ball all these different ways. then it's also like, though, last year we saw a couple teams said, okay, we'll take the run away, and he was able to scheme things up to beat you in the air.
Right.
I think about the NC State game there where they sold out on the run and CJ threw for, I think, 350.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see more of that this year, right? We don't have those first round picks at running back anymore, but we have a more experienced quarterback. And it's just going to be a different style of beating you. And I trust Denver to find those ways to do that.
Agreed. Perfect segue too, Tom, because now we're going to go position by position here and just talk about the offense. And I mean, that's the big thing is, again, like pretty much every single position has question marks, not even necessarily bad question marks, but question marks nonetheless. But the reason that like I still feel pretty good in spite of all of that is because of the epicenter of the offense this year that is going to be CJ Carr. We've talked about this before. CJ Carr set the Notre Dame record for passer rating last year at Notre Dame with like, what was it, 168 something. Like that's nuts, right? That's his first year starting. The record. Like we've had a lot of really good quarterbacks here. Like Deshaun Kaiser was pretty good at college. Jimmy Clausen, Brady Quinn, pretty good. Better than all of them in his first year from an efficiency standpoint. And again, he is really the only constant thing in this offense coming from last year. Expectations are kind of sky high in that regard. Like, I mean, the offense is going to be his offense, is going to be his touch. A lot of people, I'm not saying that I'm doing this, but there's a lot of people that are bandying about like, oh, you know, he's going to be a Heisman finalist. He's going to have a lot of opportunities. And I don't know if that's really this podcast style to declare, you know, he's going to win the Heisman or anything, but I'm really, really excited to see what he does. I mean, and he's not a perfect quarterback by any means, but I think that, you know, there's almost the least stuff to talk about here because we know who he is. And, you know, I think there's a lot of reasons to be really excited after what he did last year. Am I overselling it? I'm going to go with no, given that I'm just getting stares. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty excited. I'm trying to think of like, you know, he can get a little aggressive sometimes. You know, the USC pick at the 3-yard line, terrible. No one's going to ever defend that ever. He got pretty good against Pitt on the, what was it? The pick six in the fourth quarter. Was it? Yeah. I think that was like directly into my end zone. You know, I see some people sometimes talk about like, oh, he's not as good in the big games, but I never really bought that because if you watch the A&M game, some of those like cover 2 hole shots that he was hitting like on the sideline, like where you have to layer it over a linebacker and in front of the cornerback, like those were just ridiculous. I mean, I'm not really worried about CJ in the big games. We never got to see him in the playoffs, so I mean, it's you know, not like we have a bigger sample size there or anything, but you know, not really worried about Mr. Carr this year.
No, and I'll be the negative Nancy here for a minute and bring up what I am concerned about relating to the quarterbacks is I am concerned about QB2.
Totally fair. Totally fair.
There are 3 options right now. I mean, there's Noah Grubbs, Blake Hebert, and Teddy Gerard, and combined they have 0 snaps of collegiate experience.
Is that good?
Less than ideal, to say the least. And if, God forbid, CJ goes down, you get really worried really quickly about A, who the next guy up is, and B, are they capable of even holding their own for a drive, let alone a game, let alone more than that?
These are things we try not to think about, Tom.
I'm aware.
Yeah, I mean, you as a Colt fan, I think you would know that better than anybody, right? Like, we don't practice screwed. It's just not what we do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that 2027, that we will be having a much different conversation about this theoretically in 2027, I would think. And that definitely is an issue. But, I mean, to be honest with you, like, you know, CJ Carr is a very different quarterback than Riley Leonard. And I actually just looked at this. He got sacked 12 times last year, which is that's great. You know, sacked 1 time a game on average. I'm really even trying to.
5 of the sacks were in the first 2 games too.
I actually don't even know if I knew that. So, I mean, you know, he's very comfortable in the pocket and got really good at navigating it as time went on. I don't think he gets hit that often. Like part of his thing, he's also like, I should have gone even further in detail on this, like how nuts last year was. So he averaged like over 9 yards an attempt on the season, which is crazy. And he was doing that while also being one of the fastest quarterbacks in the country at letting go of the ball. Like, how nuts is that? right? So he really just does not get hit that often.
No, he
And
doesn't get hit much, and I wouldn't expect there to be very much designed quarterback run at
yeah,
all, especially given the schedule. And he's
I guess all it
obviously
takes is
going to
one
be
hit.
told,
Like, that's
right?
fair.
All it takes is one, but yeah, he'll be told, "Hey, be smart," and he is a smart kid. Again, fingers crossed, but in order to paint our viewers a full picture, I had to bring that up.
And Tom, that's why we value your presence here. I guess the interesting thing will be how do they handle the end of games, because I mean we know Freeman and we also know the way this season ended, and I very much think that we are going to try and leave our mark on a lot of these games on on the scoreboard, but also like how do you balance like some of these guys probably do need to actually play at some point and like get some experience. So I think we'll kind of see how that goes. But moving on to if CJ is the one stable thing, we're going into next year. We are losing 2 first-round picks at running back, which, we don't need to, I could wax poetic about these two guys for hours on end. We don't really need to do that. I miss them both greatly. They were awesome. Made me a little sad watching Jeremiah Love just do his spin moves and his hurdles in the preseason. And we could use them a lot more than Arizona does, I think. But I'm not really that worried about the running back position in a sense, because I am so excited about Aeneas Williams and what I think he can bring to this team. He has, at every opportunity in a Notre Dame uniform, when he's been given the ball, he has produced. He is an outstanding third down back, as we all know, right? I mean, caught, 5 catches in the Penn State game? Something like that.
Sounds about right.
Really natural hands, great running around. He averaged 9.3 yards per carry last year. I'm going to say that again. He averaged 9.3 yards per carry last year. And if you want to go, it was just last year, whatever, small sample size, fine. His career average, and Tom, you're a statistician, you're a smart guy. When N is greater than 50, that's a significant sample size. Is that true?
You could say so.
And I'm going to say so. He's got 60 career carries. His career average is 7.6 yards a carry. Like, is he going to be Jeremiah Love? No, he's not. But I'm fairly confident that he's decent. 3 touchdowns to 50-plus yards in his career. Another 3 between 15 and 30 yards. He's not Jeremiah Love. He's not Jadarian Price. But he does everything pretty well at a minimum. The popular. What's the popular comparison, John? Who do people love to compare Aeneas Williams to that has played in a Notre Dame uniform? Tom?
Is it Kieran?
You're going for Kyron, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean that's not even just me. That's just like a lot of people are saying that, and they're not the same player. Yeah,
we'll have to, but I can see it. Yeah, I can see it
for sure. Yeah, I mean, and is he going to be as good as Kyron Williams this year? Perhaps not. Kyron Williams was really good, but I think that Aeneas Williams does all of these things well. He hits the hole really hard. He's a better short yardage back than Love and Price were, for sure. I mean, definitely better than Price in that respect. And we don't have 2 first-round picks at running back, but I really, really strongly believe that Aeneas Williams is in for a strong year. And, you can't replace the 2 guys that came before, but I don't think we're going to be losing games because our running back is not good enough. What do we think?
I think he's going to be the biggest positive surprise of our season in general. I think he's going to have a freakishly good year. Yeah, because honestly, like as you said, he's great. He's got great hands. He's a threat out of the backfield. He's got great vision. He's a great zone runner. Hits the hole hard. I mean, if you've seen the guy live, I mean, I saw him at a Scubs game when we got our Scubs tickets for summer, and he's literally just a bowling ball. I mean, the guy's jacked. That was a year and a half ago. So, shout out the Scubs. Yeah, shout out the Scubs. But,
shout out the Scubs.
Shout out the Scubs. But I mean, I think everything that you said. I think he's the next great Notre Dame running back. I think he's gonna have a great season.
John, as I'm thinking about it, sorry, I got to interrupt you. John, I believe that was the game that we went to where there was a walk-off extra innings hit for the Scubs. It's the most electric minor league baseball game I've ever been to.
I believe so. After the raid for like 30 minutes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Peak. And then we hit Just Dance after. In Dillon Hall.
Oh, man. Tom, go ahead, please.
I don't know if I can top that, but
you probably can. But.
Yeah, you can't.
A comparison that I could see, and this is going back a little bit of like a Darius Walker type thing from like 05, 06. Like you got this really experienced, talented quarterback, and then a little bit of an unknown at running back who is a really good pass catcher and surprisingly good. And if you go back and look at those numbers, Darius Walker rushed for over 1,000 yards both in 05 and 06 as like a little bit more of an unknown playing with Brady Quinn, so star quarterback. And he caught, I think, 50 some passes in one of those years. Like, I don't know if Aeneas will get to that many, but like he could easily be in the 40s.
I would totally agree with you there. I mean, it's, he's a real weapon in the passing game, as we've seen. I mean, like he catches such a beautiful wheel route. Like there's just something about the way he runs it, and he's got catching the ball over his shoulder down pat. I think that honestly he might benefit too from tight end is probably going to be as de-emphasized this year as it maybe has ever been at Notre Dame, and I think he will honestly probably end up being the beneficiary of that to some extent in the passing game as well. Just to kind of not that I need validation for anything that I say on this podcast or anything, but I do that survey every year that, you guys obviously know about. And for anyone else listening to this, if you want to do that survey, please fill it out, by the end of the next couple of weeks here so I can still talk about some of the stuff for the defense. One of the questions that I put on this preseason survey is who is going to be the breakout player of the year on offense? People interpret, breakout player very differently. Like for a defense, someone put Leonard Moore is going to break out this year. Like, I don't really know what definition of breaking out we're using there. But so for offense, I had a decent amount of guys got votes. No one got more votes than 3 at a time. Like votes were pretty spread out, except for Aeneas Williams got 14 votes for breakout player of the year on offense. I think people are really, really excited for Aeneas Williams, and I am too. The room as a whole is a bit of an unknown, right? Like we haven't really seen Nolan James take a bulk of, snaps. We hear really good things about Jonas Walton, who's really explosive, but true freshman, we don't totally know yet. Keedron Young is still working his way back from ACL. I feel good enough about Aeneas Williams that I really I think the run game is going to be pretty solid this year, and situationally in short yardage and things like that, I think it will actually be better than it was last year. So I think that that is the biggest spot of turnover on the team in terms of just the talent that we are losing is so high. But I think we're going to have it at a minimum, a really, really high floor of whatever we can expect on the ground game this year. So, it wouldn't be complete talking about the ground game unless we also talked about the offensive line. What are our kind of overall, how do we start talking about the offensive line?
This is a tricky group. This is a tricky group for me because I think
it's really interesting.
Yes, I think there is a ton of talent. There is a lot of experience. The room is deep. But as O-lines often are, it's all about fitting puzzle pieces together. Mm-hmm. And then you have injuries that pop in, and we've already had one in camp, and more are bound to happen because that's what happens at offensive line. You really need 8 or so quality O-linemen to get through a year.
Especially at Notre Dame, seemingly that line is just prone to absolutely implode injury-wise the last couple of years.
But it's very talented, and it's getting high reviews and should be a very good group. But, for example, Will Black. He's slated right now to be a starting left tackle. He was a 5-star recruit.
Top 10.
2 years ago? Top 10 recruit, 2 years ago?
2025, so yeah.
Right.
This is his sophomore season. Yeah.
But doesn't have a career start.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if even in backup duty when he came in when we were up by a ton, if he's played left tackle.
No, he was coming in at guard at that point. Yeah, I'm pretty
right.
Sure.
So it's someone who kicked from guard to tackle. And look, he's obviously played tackle before in high school, but playing left tackle for a top 5 team in college football is a different beast.
Yeah, well, I will say really quickly, the putting him at guard is something that they like to do a lot when they have a guy they really like who they just want to get on the field. And that was just how they had to be able to get it. And that's what Gerby Lambert last year played. Right. They wanted to get him on the field, so they played him at guard. I was just thinking about this, and I was going to text you about this, and I didn't. It's been really interesting to me. So Will Black is the starting left tackle. That has not been up for debate, and they put him there, and they moved the guy that we're going to talk about next, moved his position so that Will Black could play left tackle. And, we've had a whole offseason. Fall camp's been underway for 2 weeks, give or take. And we haven't really heard anything about Will Black at all. And I don't say that as like a worrying thing or a bad thing. I can tell you for sure there are some people that would freak out about that, like the way that I just said that. But it seems to me, the way that I've interpreted this, is there just seems to be a very quiet and like casual confidence that like Will Black's going to be pretty good at left tackle. And John, we know how this goes with offensive linemen. You're never your best self week one, certainly week one of your first ever season, but he's got a lot of leeway, to grow and develop in the first couple, 2 months of the season. And by all purposes, they seem to be pretty excited about what they've got there. Like, they're just not like, it's just very bizarre because we've heard so little positively or negatively.
Yeah, I think the silence, especially at the O-line position, is a good thing. Right, like gaps are opening up. Right, like I feel like a guy makes a pick. Right, somebody makes an interception or two, or they catch a touchdown or two. Like, you're going to hear about it in the press conference. An offensive lineman doesn't give up a sack, right, in 2 weeks of practices, right? Like, well, kind of expecting that, right? You're kind of expecting that. So I feel like if we were hearing anything about it, like, I feel like whenever we get to this point in the season, right, or before the season, and we hear about the offensive line, it's just like, as a group, they're good. Like, that's the one thing that we hear, and then the other thing is somebody got hurt, right? So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think that given the fact that we just said, like, well, given the fact that we're moving Knapp, who is, for a small guy, a relatively small guy, was a great tackle, right? The fact that we're moving him inside for this, top 10 prospect who played pretty well in the time that he was there, and I feel like it just shows that we think very highly of him.
Right. I mean,
we have nothing to worry about given the circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, like, you want to use Occam's razor, like that is the coach's endorsement right there, like that they're moving Anthony Knapp. It's also, this is just kind of how practices go to, like, the Freeman does not really give a lot of access to practices anymore, certainly compared to what Kelly did before COVID. And like, these days they get to see the full first practice, which is the first practice, right? So it's not going to be anything crazy there. But after that, like, I don't think they get any. I think this is the last week that they have access, Tom, of anything. I might actually be wrong.
Yeah, I think they have. No, I think they have one more week of access.
Okay, so they've got one more week, but even then, they're basically just getting the first 5 periods. You're not actually getting like contact in these, like, you're not getting anything that the offensive linemen could really show themselves on. Like, maybe you do like some one-on-ones. But sorry.
Yeah, that's compete, and like, that's a compete period at the beginning, and then probably 2 sessions at Indy. That's probably it.
Yeah,
I'd be shocked if they're doing any like legit team, in the first 5 sessions of practice.
Right. So we're like, there's no real opportunities for the media to know much about like what a guy like Will Black is doing in his first couple reps, because we're not really seeing them. Like, it's just not what's happening. So moving on though, because again, like, Will Black is basically like seemingly get it, thought of highly, and we'll see. Guy that we have seen plenty of is Anthony Knapp, who's been a 2-year starter at left tackle, really came into it on his own. I mean, he certainly, has athletic limitations, as we saw against Miami, right? Like, if you are an elite athlete, you are, Tom's like smiling out of pain, seemingly thinking about that. But Anthony Knapp did a lot of really nice things at left tackle. Even if he probably never should have been the left tackle, he stepped up when we needed him the most and performed very admirably, and, played until his body gave out on him on a run to the national championship game. He's moving into left guard. He is going to be an absolute monster at left guard. Like, he was born to do this. He is potentially going to be a first or second round pick at guard. He's going to be great. And John, I would love to kind of get your insight there on like what, obviously we talked about he's a smaller guy than typical tackles, but like, what is it about the shift from guard to tackle that can really benefit guys like that? Like, how do the change in responsibilities, like, where do the benefits come in that?
Yeah, you hear this more with centers, but it still applies with guards. You're operating in what we call a phone booth, right? You're operating within your A gap and your B gap, versus at tackle, right? You got your B gap, and then oftentimes if a defensive end is in what we call a 9 technique, which would be outside of a hypothetical defensive end, right? You have so much more room, or not defensive end, sorry, tight end, outside of a hypothetical tight end. Um, you have so much more room that you have to cover, right? So, and especially nowadays where you got all these defensive ends who are 6'6", 6'7", um, right? As a tackle, you really need to be, these Scurvy Lambert sizes, like 6'7", 320, and can move, um, right? So Knapp is great. Yeah, he did a great job. But again, against that like top tier talent, um, just the limitation, the size limitation, it's just too much. It's just too much to deal with. Which is why it's nice having a guy like Black, 6'7", 6'8" ish, right? 315, 320, versus Knapp, who 6'4", right? He's just built better to be a guard.
Right.
But again, like him just being able to work within his little phone booth at guard. Again, like you said, I think he's going to have a great season. I think it's definitely going to be a successful shift for him. It simplifies things for him. It's not like he needs it, but
That helps.
he's got to ball out. He's got to ball out.
Agreed. Sure. This is definitely going to be probably one of the bigger and like thicker lines that we've had in a long time, with Gerby and Black at the tackle positions, and Absher or whoever else ends up filling in there potentially is just giant as well. So we've talked about Gerby Lambert before, kicking out to tackle, which is his natural position. I mean, like you just said, like he is a mutant sidewise. He's just a giant human being that fits him a lot better. He's also, I think, we talk about struggles with short yardage sometimes last year. He's a lot stronger than Emil Wagner. Emil Wagner, very, very solid player for 2 years for Notre Dame, but there was just a play strength and a physical strength that he was just never able to get because he just couldn't get that big, right? Like he never could break 300, and I don't think that's really his fault. I think it's more of his frame, but that was just always something that kind of held him back. I don't really think that's going to be a problem for Gerby. He came along really strong. I feel like by the end of the year, he was a little inconsistent to start out when he was right guard, but I think he got his feet under control a lot more, and I think he's in line for a pretty good year. Very highly regarded recruit. And again, played well by the end of last year, played quite well. And then kind of the last thing, and Tom, I'll kind of loop you in here on this. So theoretically, Ashton Craig is still working back from an ACL. Going to be ready to go, I think, pretty early in the season. But right now, our starting center is going to be Joe Otting, who I don't know if he still lives there, but I know that he did live in St. Ed's at some time. So, shout out to Steds for that one. But the question, I guess, like Joe Otting was pretty good last year, I thought, at center. He played pretty effectively at filling in around, was USC his first game?
USC was when Craig got hurt, so it would have been the game after.
Oh, so he came in against USC, and then his first full game would have been Navy?
No, you're right.
You know what?
You're right. But that time of year.
You know what? It also just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Right.
We don't need to get bogged down in the details. But so I think the question is, if Otting plays really well to start the season and Craig comes back, do you just slot him in at right guard? And I guess that's kind of, and Tom, I know your opinion doesn't really matter to the coaching staff, but what are your thoughts on playing your best five or keeping guys at certain positions just to keep things consistent?
Center and right guard are the ones that really pique my interest the most because Craig is an option to kick out the guard. Otting is not.
Right.
So if you need them both on the field, it's Otting at center, Craig at right guard.
Mm-hmm.
But Sullivan Absher has also been pretty good at right guard.
Mm-hmm.
So who gets that starting job? Because I think Craig should be ready pretty early in the year is what it sounds like. So it's how does that shake out? Does Otting get kicked out of the rotation? Matty Augustine, who is competing for the right guard spot, broke his foot.
Matty Augustine, by the way, probably going to be the backup at all non-center positions.
Right.
That kind of sounded like, yeah.
But broken foot, I don't know when he gets back.
Probably at least 2 months, I think.
I would think it's October, November. But again, if we're playing into late January, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Then you also have the great unknown of Charles Jagisaw. And again,
I was actually curious to see how long it was going to take you to bring him up. I thought I was going to have to talk about him before you would, but
I am more pessimistic, I think, timeline wise than you are, Steve. But theoretically, he could be ready to play high level football by January. I know you think that timeline is sooner, but based on the reports from practice, I don't see that happening anytime before October, November, in all honesty.
I just want to point out that you're discussing the prospect of football in January, and that makes me happy. So
I am. But I, all this to say, there's a lot of options at center right guard.
mm-hmm.
In my eyes, I think I'd probably go Craig at center, Absher at right guard, but I don't think they're bad options, and I also think they will all be needed at some point.
Yeah, it'll be pretty interesting. Absher's kind of like, I think if you asked me which of the 5 offensive linemen would be like the weakest link, I think I probably would go Absher because he was hit or miss last year at times. But like you get moments like the 94-yard touchdown against Boston College, Absher just smokes a dude in front of him. Like that's the whole reason that Love can get free in the first place. Like he's not a bad player. He's actually done some nice stuff. So that'll be kind of interesting. I do think, we don't need to get bogged down too much in it because we really don't know. But like if Jagasaw is ready to go, Jagasaw will be playing. Like that's going to happen. I think I've sent this to both of you. Like there's a scout that was talking to a couple reporters and they said that he literally has to play like 100 more snaps and he's going to be a first round pick. And that's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but when Charles Jagasaw like physically is able to play football, he's an animal. And, like if he comes back, it's really tough to feel any more excited about the offensive line than having a guy like him in there. But we'll see because we don't know. But even regardless, I think just kind of putting a bow on the offensive line, I see an offensive line with guys that are in their natural positions. Last year was really kind of a hodgepodge of like just filling guys in where we could. But you've got Kirby Lambert, you've got Anthony Knapp, you've got Will Black, all in the spots that they need to be. And I think that, even if it's a little funky the first couple of weeks, like offensive lines often can be, I think by the time you get into the meat of the schedule, those guys are going to be ready to go. And I think are going to be very complimentary in a way they weren't always last year. John, any final thoughts on the O-line or we want to move on? No. All right.
Yeah, we're good.
I also want to point out, we talked about doing this in the under the guise of brevity, and we are at 46 minutes and we still have 2 more position groups to talk about because that's how we roll here with this trio. But
there's a lot to talk about.
I guess that's true. I feel like sometimes we probably do this to ourselves a little bit. Anyways, tight ends. Very weird this year. This is as unproven as the tight end room has ever been at Notre Dame. And I feel very confident in saying that. There is, how do we have more than 20 career catches between these guys coming back? It's dicey.
Probably right around
there. So
Cooper Flanagan's got some. Ty Washington has some, but that's about
That's it. Cooper Flanagan or James Flanagan has like 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I do think there are some things that we can look at that are positives. For example, Cooper Flanagan is healthy this year. He came back. Did he play I don't even know if he played 5 games last year coming off the Achilles.
He, I think, played in 3 or 4 games and was held out to redshirt. Like there were a couple games he could have played, but they held him out. I think he played against USC and Pittsburgh, and then he sat for the Syracuse game to not burn a redshirt.
Yeah, because it definitely kind of felt like we rushed him back for USC. Because, I mean, we needed help in short yardage, and he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready.
No.
I think having him back this year, though, is going to be huge. Because, I mean, he's a demon in the trenches, for sure. Dude loves hitting. Dude knows how to hit people. We have heard legendary reports over the last couple of years of him and Snead just, beating the crap out of each other in practice. I don't think they like each other very much. And that's another thing with the short yardage. I think having him is going to help a lot. And James Flanagan had some nice blocks, too. The Pitt game, that Jeremiah Love 60-yard spin move touchdown, that all starts because James Flanagan just ethered a dude on the edge and allowed that to happen in the first place. So I think as blockers, there's actually some stuff to like here. Not that Raritan was bad as a blocker. He's not. But having both of those guys in there, I think could help a lot. I'm not really counting on them as receivers outside of maybe Flanagan. Cooper catches a couple touchdowns in the red zone, but until I see them do anything with the ball in their hands, I'm just not anticipating that to be something we're doing this year. Yeah, just a couple head shakes and nods. Yeah, I think I honestly don't even
I'll add one piece of excitement for
Okay.
the tight end group. And actually a disclaimer first. For all our viewers, the Flanagans are unrelated.
They are spelled differently.
Yes. True. Just so we don't get confused. But point of excitement.
Does that happen a lot, Tom? You get confused?
No comment.
Okay.
Um, Point of excitement in the tight end room. Arriving to campus this summer slash
Mm.
fall, Ian Premer, 5-star tight end, true freshman out of, I think, Kansas. It was a big recruiting win to get him over
Hmm.
Kansas State. As odd as that
Unexpected win,
sounds, right?
which is a
As
rarity
odd
these
as that
days.
sounds, but that was a big win. And tight end, I think, is a position, and especially his play style, where he can see the field pretty early because similarly to Michael Mayer, like you put the ball in his hands, good things are going to happen.
Mm.
He's very explosive with the football. I think he actually played like, what is it, 7-on-7 or 8-on-8 football in Kansas. Like, I don't think he
Yeah.
played full
Yep.
11s, which is good
I think
for.
he did play some contact. I
Oh,
mean, maybe
yeah.
they just do contact 7 on
I
7.
know. I
But
think it's like contact 8-on-8 for schools
okay,
like
I've
that.
definitely seen him like lumber over dudes. I guess
Yes.
I wasn't paying attention to how many people were on the
Um,
field, but
but regardless, it's like that promotes athleticism.
mm.
There's a lot more space, and Michael Mayer, you watch what Tyler Warren did, like those guys at a tight end position who have that strength and athleticism combo are really hard to
Mm.
bring down and really hard to cover. And I think he could be that. We'll see if he can get there at some point this year.
I imagine the idea of 8-on-8 football is just absolutely disgusting, John. But I think that yeah.
Oh, yeah, more space. I guess it's
Yeah, I
it
guess
is
if
what it
they're
is.
hitting,
I
that's
understand what
something.
you got now. 7-on-7, 2-hand touch. That's some commie BS. But don't get me started on that. Do not get me started
I've
on
done it
that.
before. I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah, yeah. I'll save the viewers from a
Yeah.
20-minute rant.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that would take a lot of work to censor all that out. So yeah, it's tough with like Premer. You really hope that maybe by the back half of the season he's ready to go. It's just tough to count on in any sport. You can't really bank on freshmen coming in immediately, especially when they've had no like spring ball or fall ball. Depending on the sport. Here's an example that like people won't care about, but like lacrosse, right? Dylan Faison, who was on the football team as a freshman wide receiver, was the number 1 overall recruit in the country for lacrosse, and he did not. You can't enroll early, like that early for school, so he didn't get any fall ball because he enrolled early for football, came into the spring when the lacrosse season started, but so he didn't get any preseason lacrosse, and he basically didn't start getting in the rotation even as like the number 1 recruit whose talent is like jumping off the screen until like halfway through the year. And, it's obviously not a perfect comparison. Nobody's Michael Mayer, right? I mean, Michael Mayer is the best tight end in the program history. Like, I would highly doubt that Ian Premer is going to lead the team in catches. But
Yeah.
I definitely think that I think we can expect to see some opportunities to just get the ball in his hands and just see what happens and just let him run wild a little bit. And, maybe by the end of the year, that becomes a significant role. I don't think we really need tight ends as much this year because of what we're about to kind of talk about. I think we're going to have plenty of options to throw to of varying quality. I think if there was ever a year to really not have a tight end be a part of the offense, I guess this is kind of the year. But it just feels a little weird because it's just never what we've been about, right? Especially just as a general, as someone who really likes tight ends. It's too bad, but we'll see. So the wide receiver, I actually did a whole page of notes for the wide receivers because it's just such a. I think the wide receivers this year are completely in the eye of the beholder. So I'm actually going to give. I will say from the outset, I think we have not been getting bad reports out of camp of these guys. This is not why I'm saying this, but I think it's just really hard to get a sense for what is what with the receivers because right now they are practicing against the best secondary in the country. It's not arguable. Like it is happening. We had that one report that came out of like Leonard Moore got targeted 5 times in practice and got his hands on the ball on 4 of them because it's just what Leonard Moore does. Like, you're not always going to really be able to properly assess what's going on when you're throwing against these guys every single day. John, I'm going to give you the first opportunity. Just like overall, like what do you see when you look at the Notre Dame receiver room this year? Good or bad?
I think this is probably, definitely exciting, right? Definitely exciting. I mean, we get another senior face on, right? We get this influx of talent with Porter and Graham. But I'm very excited to see Greathouse come back. I'm excited with Cam Williams. I've always been a big Cam Williams fan, right? So it'll be exciting. And like, I feel like it's probably the most talented group that we've had. Yeah, it's unproven. So it's a little bit like the running back group in that sense, right? Where got a whole bunch of talent. You know, we could be really good.
Hmm.
We just have to see it happen. We just have to see it happen. So
Well said. I do think this is definitely like the fourth year in a row that like Tom and I have been talking about, oh, the receiver room is like the best it's been in a while, which is true because it has been, I think, steadily improving, and Mike Brown deserves credit for that. Tom, go ahead, please. What are we looking at here?
I was actually just going to say you can probably just copy and paste what I said prior years about this. This group concerns me the most, in all honesty. And I know that's a little harsh because I think Greathouse and Faison are both going to have really good years. Greathouse has
Speak
had
your
good
truth, buddy. Go
reports.
ahead.
Greathouse has had really good reports out of
Mm.
camp. Faison, we know what he brings, and I think those two are going to be very solid.
Mm.
Outside of that, I'm a little concerned. I like Mylan Graham. I think he should be good. I'd like to see the staff try and get those top three on the field more together. But I think at boundary, Micah Gilbert, again, is he going to take that jump? He caught that touchdown pass against Miami last year and then
Nothing.
didn't really do anything the rest of the year.
Nope.
If he can take that jump and make contested catches and be a dude on the boundary, that goes a long way, but we need to see that. And this is year 3 for him now. He's got to make that jump. And Quincy Porter, again, he has all the makings of being that dude on the boundary. You look at his size, the pictures you see of him, he's massive. He looks
Like DK Metcalf.
right, like he has the frame that you need to be play at boundary. The problem is right now he is very hurt still. He is not close to being ready for games is what the reports are. He's barely practicing. And again, we've talked about it. The schedule lines up nicely. You shouldn't really need someone like that until later in the year, but he needs to get healthy at some point to get that chemistry with CJ and the offense as a whole. Cam Williams is Cam Williams. Again, another, I'll buy it when I see it.
Totally fair.
And that's kind of the theme of the room right now behind those top two. It's, I like Greathouse and Faison, but outside of that, I need to see it.
Yeah. I think you really kind of hit a lot of that there. I think that I will say, so the way that I see it really from a broad point of view, I see three really solid top guys that I think are going to be your three leading receivers on the year. You're going to have, in no particular order, you have Greathouse, you have Faison, and I think Mylan Graham is going to be that guy. I'd like to think that, with all our years of experience, we can be pretty good at kind of sussing out like core media members, like long-term media members, like what they're saying and like how does that kind of reflect like the way that, maybe these guys are actually being viewed. People have been pretty unanimously positive about Mylan Graham since the day he stepped on campus. And I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to reach his full potential from, day one. He's going to be here, I would assume, at least 2 years would be my guess, unless, he like wins a Heisman this year, which, probably isn't going to happen. But I think that I'd like to think he, if nothing else, is going to be a valuable member of that rotation. Part of the problem there is that all three of these guys, Greathouse, Faison, and Mylan Graham, are, for the most part, field slot guys. I think realistically, if they all had to play their best position, it's probably slot for all three of them. But Mylan Graham and Jordan Faison can be very effective college field receivers. The problem, like, we don't have a definitive boundary big-bodied receiver that we have, right? I mean, Tom just talked about Quincy Porter. In particular, there are some videos that came out of like the receivers doing drills where they have to cut and like come back and then go forward again. And Quincy Porter really just looks like he can't move at all right now. I mean, it was bad. Like, he's not close. I think theoretically they said that anybody who's limited on that list can like potentially play against Wisconsin. That is not happening. That's not something we need to be thinking about really at all right now. I think that Greathouse can moonlight at the boundary. He's done it before. And, I think his play style, he's very physical and he's great at the catch point. So now that you see a fully healthy season from him, I think he'll definitely probably rotate in there, especially at the start of the year. But, you definitely want a guy who could be there a little more full time, even just to keep people honest, because you have these other three guys that are so good, right? I mean, Greathouse can move the chains really well. We've seen him play as good as anybody against the best defenses in football. If you throw the ball to him, I think he dropped one pass in 2024 and he had like the 20th highest catch rate of any receiver in the country when he was healthy last. Like, he's a very valuable player when he's around. Jordan Faison, right? I mean, shifty as anybody. His layups with Carr last year really kind of drove the offense, gave them a rhythm that I think is going to be real important this year. But you need a guy who is a big body, who is going to go deep, that defenses have to account for, with an extra guy, with a bigger guy to, again, even if nothing else, just give the other guy some more space to work with. I will say, I don't know if you saw the Micah, what's his name, Micah Gilbert thing today.
I did. That made me optimistic, but
I don't want to, never overreact to one play, but like, we really hadn't seen much evidence of him being like going up for the ball, playing the ball, going through. And like, that was a whole big thing in the spring game. He was guarded by Jaden Sanders, and like, there was a ball that was underthrown a little bit by Carr, but Gilbert like didn't fight for it at all. Like, he just kind of fell down. And now we have this video today of him draped by DJ McKinney and Tay Johnson, and he is jumping up through those guys, very strong, catches the ball and comes down with it. Like, that's perfect. He doesn't need to do that 3 times a game, but if he's at least a threat to do something like that, that really goes a long way, I think, with this team. Other thing, I guess, to think about is, what else have we really, does Devin Fitzgerald get a shot maybe at some point in the year? We've heard a lot of really good things about him out there at the boundary. True freshman, again, you never really want to bank on these things. I think they might end up giving him a look at some point. I'm not going to declare that he's going to start or anything, but I think at some point you probably will just see guys kind of rotate in and out there, whether it's a Cam Williams, Devin Fitzgerald, Greathouse, just throwing looks out there, because it's something we're going to need by the end of the season. So
we could really use Malachi Fields this year.
He is the perfect boundary receiver. Like, he's built in a lab to just be a boundary receiver.
Yes. And on this year's team, that would go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Had a touchdown yesterday, right? For the Giants.
Oh, yeah. And that was perfect. Like, toe tap, like, went up really high, grabbed the ball. No one else is going to get it.
Oh, yeah.
I miss him. It's too bad. Like, would have loved to see him in some playoff games, but whatever. At the end of the day, though, again, you can talk about the receivers, and, I think we can all agree there are good players in this room. At a minimum, Greathouse and Faison, are pretty proven commodities, and we've got really high upside other options. But at the end of the day, CJ Carr is a rising tide that lifts all boats. That is why you have a guy who's potentially going to be a first-round quarterback, because while these receivers are figuring out their roles, figuring out how good they may or may not be, they're going to have an accurate ball placed on them. They're going to have balls that throw them open rather than just waiting for them to get open themselves. He's going to give them chances to go deep. I think that while they're figuring this out, I don't really know if they could have a better quarterback to kind of guide them through that process. And even if, are we going to have an alpha number one? Probably not. I think, maybe if Greathouse is healthy, he can have like a much bigger, more productive season. But I think that we're going to have a lot of, I think at a minimum, we'll have a couple of solid options that are going to give CJ plenty to work with as he does his thing.
And this room's got to go up against Leonard Moore every practice, right? So
iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. And I think that's where we're going to kind of close out here, unless there's any final remarks about the offense, anything that we're feeling particularly strong about. Okay, we actually did all right. Time-wise, it's a little over an hour. Aeneas Williams. Agreed.
Gonna have a season.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope he does. So kind of my plan here. So this is going to come out tonight. So people can, on their commutes tomorrow, they can perhaps take a look at that. I'm not working yet. I don't know what that's like, but we're going to do, I think I'm going to do one NFL podcast next week, probably on the AFC. And then we will be back and releasing the final part of the Notre Dame preview for the defense on what is that specific date. It's going to be exactly 1 week before the Wisconsin game.
August 30th.
Is that the 30th?
August 30th. All right. So, if you are looking for more Notre Dame football from these 3 guys, August 30th is going to be, that's your date. So thank you guys for listening. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. As always, we're found on Apple Podcasts, not Google Podcasts. We are found on Spotify. And we're now on YouTube, too, which is, I think I'm going to keep the faces off for now until we can, up our profiles a little bit here. But it is on YouTube. Some people like to listen to podcasts on YouTube. So, that's there if you want it, too. So thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you soon.